Hi everybody, it's Chef Kathryn with Vivacious Dish, and I'm here with farmer Paul Greive of Primal Pastures, and today we're going to be talking about regenerative agriculture. So we are standing on a grass farm. You can see we're surrounded by a gorgeous grassy pasture, and we're going to be talking about the health benefits of farming and raising animals in this way and some other things. So it's really interesting because one of the things that I get a lot when I talk to people about being a conscious chef and paying attention to health and well-being is many people ask if I'm a vegan. And so often we associate healthy living with taking a plant-based approach, but for me, I've found that in eating meat, especially in meat that's raised in a holistic way that's really supportive of a healthy environment and a healthy body, that's really helped for me to combat inflammation and just see dramatic improvements in my health. And I know for you that that's something that's been an inspiration as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me, first of all. And that's the whole reason we started with this farm in the beginning, was because we wanted to provide an alternative that was better than what we were finding in the grocery store. And we just started raising chickens outside on grass because we couldn't find them, and this whole thing is sort of a product of what happened 5 years ago.
And have you seen improvements through that process? Like, do you feel better? Did it help to shift your family's health?
I mean, I had horrible arthritis, everything from my ankles to my knees to my back, and I couldn't breathe through my nose. And I had some guys tell me, oh, why don't you try paleo? And so 2 weeks in, I was not a believer, but after 2 weeks of trying it, I felt like a kid again. I could breathe, I could move, I felt like totally different. And that sparked me to research the food system, what's going on with American food and meat and labeling and free range and cage free and all these things that we hear so much about that are kind of full of BS. So from that experience, we started our farm, and it's been really, really fun, and definitely I've seen personal health benefits. My father-in-law has lost 100 pounds.
Wow.
Everybody's just reduced inflammation, and it's been really cool.
That's awesome. It's amazing how quickly it can change too. You said 2 weeks. When I took removed grains and refined sugars from my diet, it was about a month, but then it was like smooth sailing. I felt like a 5-year-old. I had so much energy. It's awesome.
And we work with a lot of clients now too that are serious health problems, going through chemotherapy or leukemia, battling different forms of cancer and some serious stuff. And so it's really, really an honor to be able to work with those families now, to be able to help them through that journey and through that process, to provide them with good food, because that's some of the most important stuff that you can do when you're going through things like that.
Well, it's really cool too, because there's obviously the positive impact on personal health, but there's also the positive impact on the environment as well. And I know Primal Pastures is all about land stewardship also.
Yeah, I mean, we call it like the triple bottom line or whatever. It's health of the animal, health of the land, health of the consumer. And I think those are all super important, but we geek out on grass. We consider ourselves grass farmers first and foremost. So our whole entire job is just to provide an amazing environment, a natural environment that the birds would have lived in 100, 1,000 years ago, and all of our livestock for that matter. So we really focus on taking care of our soil, and the soil produces the feed, which is the grass produces the animals, and that's our system. It's very simple.
Awesome, I love it. Well, we're gonna take a quick tour. Paul's gonna show us around and tell us about a couple of the things in that system, and we'll go from there.
Let's do it. Sounds
all right.
good.
Okay, well, we're at the first step in the pastured chicken operation with 1-week-old baby chicks. So this is great. I think it's wonderful that these birds have access to the outdoor space. And talk to me about where you get your chicks and how they live their lives to start.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't believe it, but baby chicks, we don't hatch them here. They actually come from 2 different hatcheries, one in Iowa, one in Pennsylvania. And then when they come here, they're about 3 days old. They come through the postal system. So we get a call from a frantic USPS postal worker, said, oh my gosh, you hear a lot of chirping in the background, and we go pick them up and we put them in this environment first, called the brooder. So the brooder is really important because in nature, you'd have mom's wing and it would be very warm under there and nice and toasty, so we replicate that with heat lamps inside. And it's an indoor-outdoor facility with no floor, so there's no concrete pad under this. They still get all the bugs and anything that flies in, seeds or anything that they can find. But they can stay as warm as they want, or they can come out here. So it's kind of like a dual purpose environment. And then at 2 weeks old, so another week for these guys, when they're 2 weeks old, they'll go out to the pasture pens full time.
It's great. So from box to pasture in short time.
Yes, and that's one huge advantage of Southern California. So we can do this 52 weeks out of the year. We can produce every single week out of the year. We can get them out to pasture really, really young and really early, which is better for their health.
Yeah.
And that's one great thing about producing down here in Southern California.
Well, one of the things that I really love, Paul, about your operation is that every part of the system adds value to the system. So we're hanging out right now with these adorable puppies, but I know that how important they are to your farm as well.
Yeah, I mean, they are the fundamental, like what holds the farm together. In our first year of doing this, we start putting animals outside. We lost 1,200 chickens and 35 lambs to coyotes. So in this valley, there's about 1,000 packs of coyotes. This is a traditional way of keeping livestock outside, though. These breeds have been with livestock, mostly with sheep, for thousands of years. It's a Great Pyrenees, which is a French breed, Anatolian Shepherd, which is a Turkish breed, and it's a cross between those two. So we keep about 14 of these dogs out at our farm at any given time. They live 24/7 with the animals. Mostly they sleep all day. They're just awake because we're in here, and then they'll patrol all night long. And so we just had this new litter, and they'll be taking care of livestock in about a year. So they're just training right now.
Awesome. Working hard already.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay, so now we are back in the pasture after visiting the brooder. And can you talk a little bit about why raising chickens on pasture is so important?
Yeah, it's important. It's different than 99.999% of chickens that are raised indoor in confinement in a grow house with manure lagoons and all that stuff. So the chickens that live outside on grass are good for like many different reasons. The first one is the health of the actual chicken. So instead of just eating grains and grains and grains, they get to pick and scratch for bugs and worms and grasses and seeds, and they get to have fresh air and sunshine every single day. The way that we use the birds is we actually rotate them to fresh pasture every single day. So that's fresh bedding, fresh feed, and they get lots of fresh air, so they're not getting sick. Because of all that, we don't need to use any vaccines. We don't need to use any antibiotics. We don't need to use any medicated feed or drugs or hormones or any of that ugly stuff that's used sort of in the conventional environment. And that's pastured poultry. The end result of that is a way healthier bird that I think tastes way better. It grows slower, it develops more thigh meat, a little bit less breast meat, it gets that darker red color to the meat because of the green material that's eaten all the time, and it's really just a better chicken all the way around.
It tastes more chickeny, as many people will say, and I love that, but it's interesting too because you can really notice the difference in flavor from that pasture
We've had a lot of customers that grew up outside of the U.S. or maybe on a farm or like a more traditional environment, and they'll come and say, oh my gosh, like I've been trying to make my mom's Spanish paella for like 10 years in the US. It's never worked right. It's never worked. And then I started using this chicken and it totally brought out the right flavors and it reminds me of home. And I'm always like, that's good confirmation for us that we're doing things in a natural way,
Yeah, you're bringing it back to kind of the original approach to chicken raising that's been around for a really long time.
Totally.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting too because the first time I met Paul was a few years back and Primal Pastures was kind of just getting started and you hosted chicken processing workshops, and that experience for me was challenging and very intense, but I felt like as someone who was eating meat, it was really important to connect with that aspect of the food system and understand what it takes to take a chicken from pasture to your plate. And you can read more about that on my blog on Vivacious Dish, but what I love about Primal Pastures is the transparency too. We're standing out here, we can see the birds right in the field. You guys are always open for tours. I know throughout the summer you host different things. And
it's a process that's super important to us. 100 years ago, everybody knew where their food came from. There wasn't supermarkets, you bought from farms. And now in the last 50 years, we've sort of gotten to this like cellophane wrapped, walking through the grocery store, beautiful, and you kind of forget that that was a living, breathing animal at one point in time. And I think that's what's enabled factory farming and all that kind of conventional CAFO stuff to even be a thing. So I think it's really important for the people that are interested to give them the opportunity to experience what it means to take an animal's life, to respect that life, to let that life sustain our life. That's a serious, heavy responsibility, and I don't think it's something that we should take lightly, but we do take a lot of pride that we get to show people that and kind of bring that back.
Yeah, I agree. It's great. And having a farm here that's, an hour or so outside of San Diego, it's very accessible for people in San Diego, for people in Orange County. So really a nice opportunity to just form those connections. So with that in mind, we're gonna take the pasture to the kitchen, and I'm gonna show you all how to turn one of these beautiful chickens into a paleo pot pie that'll be delicious, grain-free, and really highlight the love and all of the energy and joy that went into producing these birds.
Nice,
So
sounds
thanks
good.
for that.
Definitely.